Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're diving into a topic that's gotten a lot of you revved up, so to speak, becoming a motorcycle instructor. You've sent in a ton of great material on this.
Yeah, it looks like we've got everything from job descriptions and industry trends to even some interview tips, which is great.
It is. So let's get right into it. First things first, what does a motorcycle instructor actually do?
Well, it's more than just, teaching people to ride.
Right. Because saying teach people to ride is pretty broad. I mean, you've got folks who've never even touched a motorcycle before, and then you've got those who, well, maybe they think they're already out there racing MotoGP.
Exactly. And you've got to be prepared to handle it all. The sources you sent, especially that role function one,
Hmm.
really highlight just how multifaceted this job is. You're not just teaching someone how to work a clutch, you're breaking down traffic laws, risk management, the actual mechanics of how a motorcycle works.
It's making sure someone is ready not just to ride, but to ride safely and pass those tests.
Oh, absolutely. Written tests, writing tests. A motorcycle instructor plays a big role in all of that.
Okay, I got to ask about something here. One of the sources uses this term, ructors, like multiple times.
Rutgers?
Yeah. Any idea? I'm picturing like a biker gang from the future or something.
Honestly, that sounds like a typo. I was scanning through the sources too, and I don't remember seeing any kind of definition.
Probably means instructors then.
Yeah, safe bet. Though you never know. Always good to stay on the lookout for rogue rectors, just in case.
Good point. But on a more serious note, let's talk about the work environment. One source mentions being outdoors in various conditions, which, let's be real, could mean anything from perfect riding weather to, like, a torrential downpour.
On everything in between.
So for someone thinking about this kind of career, what are the real implications there? What do they need to be ready for?
Well, you're not going to be riding inside a climate-controlled bubble, that's for sure. A good motorcycle instructor is adaptable, ready for anything Mother Nature throws their way. Rain, shine, even snow in some places.
Talk about some high-pressure learning. Imagine trying to handle a heavy bike in the pouring rain for the first time.
It takes a lot of skill and dedication, and that's what makes a good instructor so important. They're not just teaching you to ride, they're teaching you to ride well in all sorts of situations.
Okay, now this next bit really caught my attention, the industry trends section. This source is suggesting that demand for motorcycle instructors is on the rise because motorcycles are becoming more popular.
It's an interesting trend.
So what's driving that, do you think? Why the sudden surge in interest in motorcycles?
Well, I think for a lot of people, it's not just about transportation. It's about freedom, adventure.
It's a lifestyle.
Exactly. And as more people are drawn to that lifestyle, the demand for people who can teach them to do it safely, that's where motorcycle instructors come in. And it's not just about the number of riders on the road either. The motorcycle industry itself is evolving.
Which reminds me, the source mentions new technologies, but doesn't really get into specifics. What kinds of advancements are we talking about here? Like, what should aspiring instructors be aware of?
It's a big deal and something a lot of people don't even think about. Modern motorcycles are integrating all sorts of cool technology, things that directly impact how they handle and perform.
Like what? Give us some examples.
We're talking about traction control, cornering ABS, electronically adjustable suspension, even the rise of electric motorcycles, which, as you can imagine, present a whole other set of challenges and opportunities from a teaching perspective.
It's like the motorcycle itself is becoming this high-tech learning tool.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears for a second and address, well, the elephant in the room when we talk about motorcycles, the risk factor. One source lists risk of accidents or injuries as a major con of this career path.
Yeah, that's something you definitely have to take seriously.
It's got to be a reality check for anyone who might be romanticizing this job a little bit. So how do you balance the inherent thrill of riding with the inherent danger, especially when you're the one responsible for someone else's safety?
It's a balance, for sure. And honestly, I think that highlights just how vital the role of a motorcycle instructor really is. You're not just teaching someone to ride for fun. You're teaching them to respect the machine, respect the road, and to understand that, yeah, there are real risks involved.
And mitigating those risks. So even with the best training, accidents can happen. What are some ways instructors can minimize those risks, especially with new riders who, let's be honest, might panic a little when things get dicey?
That's where experience comes in. A good instructor knows how to anticipate problems before they even happen. And you start slow, controlled environments, parking lots, quiet streets, gradually work your way up as the student's skills develop.
Baby steps.
Exactly. Break everything down, make sure they're comfortable with each step before moving on. And communication, that's huge. Clear hand signals, positioning bikes strategically so everyone has a good view, and giving feedback, positive, constructive feedback, even when a student is struggling.
Because it's about building confidence as much as it is building skill, right?
100%. Now, on a slightly less intense note, one of the things these sources bring up is the flexibility factor.
Oh, yeah, they caught my eye, too. Flexible hours, even. Sounds like this could be a good career path for someone who, well, maybe isn't so into the whole 9 to 5 thing.
You got it. Especially once you've got some experience under your belt, built up a client base. A lot of motorcycle instructors, especially those working independently, they have a lot of control over their own schedule.
Trading the cubicle for the open road? Not bad.
Hmm.
Okay, but one source we got, the specialisms section, is totally blank. Does that mean there aren't areas where a motorcycle instructor can specialize? Because it seems like there'd be some niches there.
No, you're absolutely right. There are definitely specializations within the field. For example, you could focus on a particular type of motorcycle. Sport bikes, cruisers, off-road.
So you could become like the go-to instructor for, say, experienced riders who want to learn how to handle a super high-performance bike on a track.
Exactly. Or you could specialize in teaching certain groups. Teenagers learning to ride for the first time, women riders.
What about those folks who maybe had a bad experience in the past, something that made them nervous to get back on a bike? Seems like there'd be a need for instructors who are trained to handle that kind of sensitivity.
There definitely is, and that's becoming more and more common. It's all about finding your niche, finding what you're passionate about and what you're good at.
Right, so you've got the skills, you've got the passion, you're ready to become a motorcycle instructor. But now you've got to ace that interview. And one of these sources actually gives us some sample interview questions. Some of these are great, like, how would you handle a student who is clearly struggling with anxiety or fear while riding? That's a good one.
It's a crucial aspect of the job. Because as an instructor, you have to be empathetic. You have to understand that for a lot of people, learning to ride can be scary.
They're putting a lot of trust in you.
Exactly. Building that trust is so important. So yeah, you've got to be a skilled rider and a knowledgeable teacher, but you also have to be a good listener, someone who can pick up on those nonverbal cues, maybe adjust the pace of the lesson, or just take a break and have a conversation if that's what the student needs.
Make them feel seen and heard. Okay, let's be real, though. In a competitive job market, knowing how to ride and teach, that might not be enough. So what are some ways someone can stand out, make their application really shine when applying for these jobs?
Well, certifications are always a good look. Having that MSF Certified Instructor designation, for example, shows that you've gone above and beyond. And a valid first aid and CPR certification that's essential not just for motorcycle instructors, but honestly for anyone.
For sure. It shows you're taking things seriously, you're prepared for anything, and this is where technology comes in, right? I mean, we've talked about how it's changing motorcycles themselves, but it's also changing the way people find jobs.
Huge time.
And that's where something like RoleCatcher can be a game changer for someone starting out in this field.
100%. RoleCatcher's got some really innovative tools and services for anyone who's navigating the job market, and that's true for something as specific as motorcycle instruction.
So let's get specific. How can RoleCatcher help someone actually land their dream job as a motorcycle instructor?
Well, for one, their AI-powered CV and resume builder is amazing. It helps you put together this really polished, professional application that highlights all the right skills.
It's like having a personal branding expert in your back pocket.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then there's the interview process, which, let's be honest, can be a bit nerve-wracking.
A little bit.
RoleCatcher actually has this AI-powered interview practice feature that's like having your own personal interview coach. You can practice answering common interview questions, get feedback on how you're doing, even work on your body language.
That's cool. It's like having a secret weapon to help you feel confident and prepared. But let's go back to something we touched on earlier, the idea of continuous learning. With motorcycles evolving so rapidly, how can motorcycle instructors stay on top of all the latest advancements?
That's a great question. And honestly, it's a question every instructor should be asking themselves. Because the learning never really stops. Going to industry conferences, taking workshops, even pursuing additional certifications, it all helps you stay sharp and up to date.
Because it's more than just a job, right?
Definitely.
It's about being a part of this whole community. Okay, so you're on the job hunt. You're looking for motorcycle instructor positions. Can you tell us a little bit about RoleCatcher's RoleCatcher.capture tool? How can that help?
Oh, that's a really useful one. It's a browser plugin, and basically what it lets you do is, say you're browsing a job board, right? You see a listing that sounds interesting. Instead of having to go through this whole application process right then and there, you can use RoleCatcher.capture to save it.
So you're not interrupting your flow, getting bogged down in applications when you're just trying to see what's out there.
Exactly. You can save it directly to your RoleCatcher account and then go back and look at everything when you've got some time.
Prioritize, organize, maybe even set reminders to circle back later. I like it. Okay, last but not least, we've talked about skills, we've talked about certifications, but what about those, I don't know, almost intangible qualities that make a truly great motorcycle instructor? What's the human element here? It's about more than just checking off boxes on a resume, right?
Right. A great motorcycle instructor. They're passionate, first and foremost. They love writing, and they want to share that, but they also understand that everyone learns differently, so they're patient.
Patient.
Yeah. And they're good at explaining things, giving feedback in a way that actually helps people improve, because it's about more than just teaching someone how to ride from point A to point B.
It's that feeling, that sense of freedom and adventure we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
You want to pass that on to your students.
Exactly. You want them to have that same passion, but you also want them to be safe, to be responsible. And hopefully they take that with them, even when they're not on a motorcycle.
So it's almost like what you're doing is having an impact that goes way beyond just the people you teach.
It does. It really does.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, I always like to leave our listeners with something to think about.
A little homework.
Exactly. Something to ponder, something that maybe we didn't get a chance to cover fully. So here it is. For anyone listening who's thinking about becoming a motorcycle instructor, ask yourself this: what kind of impact do you want to have? Not just on your students, but on the world of motorcycling as a whole. Because it's more than just a job, right? It's a chance to shape the future of riding. One student, one ride, one lesson at a time. And with that, we'll put the kickstand down on this deep dive. Don't forget, all the source material is over on the website if you want to keep the engines revving. Until next time, ride safe.